My name is Jeremy Devins, and welcome back to the Quiet Mind Astrology Podcast. And today I want to talk about the three big questions. So, when I was about 20 years old, I found Alan Watts, the philosopher Alan Watts. Back then, nobody really knew who he was. I found him on some file I downloaded of all these different philosophy teachers and audiobooks, and they were all kind of dry and kind of boring. And I was looking for something. I was looking for an answer in life. I was looking for some sort of guidance or meaning. I knew I had not found it to that point. I got really into music, to weightlifting, to a few different things. And philosophy was something I was very interested in. Like, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here? These kind of things. I didn't have a father growing up, so I was looking for some sort of guidance. And this led me to this BitTorrent download back in the day, BitTorrent in the 2000s. And it's just a big download with a bunch of philosophers and audiobooks and stuff, rare stuff that you couldn't find anywhere. And Alan Watts was one of those things. And I still remember where I was when I was stocking shelves at Home Depot and I was 20 years old. And I listened to all these philosophy things, kind of interesting, listening to some astrology things, some podcast things. But then I found this Alan Watts thing and it was totally different. Something about it really resonated for me. I still remember where I was standing and I just stood still and just took it in. Stopped stocking the shelves, made sure I was out of sight of any supervisor, and just listened because I had my headphones in. And, technically I wasn't supposed to do that, but I just did it anyway. And eventually they stopped bugging me about it. So working overnights. And I stood there and just listened in awe of like what he was saying about why we're here and what life is really about. And he talked about yoga and he talked about the Vedas and the Vedic teachings. And it set me on this new path in life where I just knew I wanted to listen to everything Alan Watts had to say. So that's what I did for the next year and a half or so while I was stocking shelves every night, listening to Alan Watts, and then go home and make music and then come back and repeat. And also astrology podcast actually, and Radio Lab I really liked back then. But it was a lot of this, and Alan Watts would keep coming back to the Vedas, and he'd say that all the things he studied, he would keep referencing Taoism and the Vedanta philosophy, which comes from the Vedas, which is the root of yoga, Ayurveda, and Jyotish, or Vedic astrology. Now, he didn't ever talk about astrology. His path didn't lead him into that, but he did talk about the three big questions. And as I remember it, I couldn't actually find, I tried to find a clip of him saying this, but this is how I remember it at least. And I haven't listened to him as much in recent years, but he was so formative for me. Three questions are: who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going? Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? Now, these questions were very relevant to me as an angsty teen turned 20-year-old without a father in my life and without a clear sense of direction and purpose, trying to emulate musicians I admired and movies, just looking for something. I didn't really have it yet. But Alan Watts was closer to it, and he talked a lot about the Vedas and a lot about yoga. Never taught yoga, but this got me now going to yoga class and really liking it. And then I want to do this every day. And that got me to move to Austin. And all these things I started doing to like clear up my intuition, clear up my field, myself of like only eating organic foods, making sure I sleep well. I had to leave this job of working overnight stocking shelves, which I didn't like. I only liked because I could listen to my audiobooks all night and listen to music all night and then go be inspired for my creation the next day. But I knew I didn't want to stay in that job, and all these things started to point to I need to be more in alignment, more true to myself. Like didn't want to be at this job, didn't want to live in Minnesota where it's cold and depressing. I didn't want to eat uh, all this processed food and all this food that was delivered around the world. To actually eat like local organic food in Minnesota is pretty limited. You can definitely do it, but I was really getting into the fruitarian diet. That seemed like a good idea. And fruit doesn't grow so well in Minnesota. So I wanted to move south. Head on down south to either California or Austin or it was Florida. A few different options. And as a musician and a spiritual seeking person, Austin seemed perfect in 2011 when I moved there. So, having had a few yoga classes in person and now going to a place with a lot of yoga, having performed some live shows, made some music, done very, very modest, tiny bit of success as a musician, seeing there was a path there, moving to Austin also made a lot of sense. So I moved to Austin, still listening to Alan Watts quite a bit at the time, still into this seeking phase, still a musician primarily, and ended up at a few yoga classes and ended up at what was called Yoga Yoga. This is where the famous Yoga with Adrian trained just a couple of years prior to me coming there. I didn't know she wasn't like a big celebrity or anything in 2011, and it turned out to be a really good school and really good training. And I trained in uh, at Yoga Yoga eventually, but I went to a first class there, and there was some old hippie guy with the white beard, seemed kind of cool. And they said, "Okay, who's here for Kundalini yoga and who's here for Hatha? We're gonna split up." And I was just there for yoga. I didn't understand there was styles. I didn't know there was different yogas. I was there for yoga. And I had already interacted a bit with this old hippie with a beard and wearing all white, and he seemed cool. So I stayed in the room with him and didn't go to the other room. And that one decision probably changed my whole trajectory of my life. As you know, in addition to all the decisions to get there and move to this town, Austin, who I'd never been to, I didn't know anybody there. This kind of leap of faith. But and now in this yoga class and yoga work, it was sort of open house and for Kundalini yoga. And I really resonated. I liked everything he said, sounded really cool. I wanted to do it. And then he said the price. And I said, oh, okay, actually, I'm not going to be able to afford that. I just moved here. I don't have a job. I'm volunteering at a few places. I, and he's like, if money's the only reason you don't want to do it, then don't let that stop you. Figure it out. We can figure out a payment plan or something. But if that's the only reason, then just put your name down. We'll figure it out. And I've since then, that's been my attitude about everything. If money is the thing I'm like giving my power to and saying I need money to do this, then I just take my power back and just say, hey, how can we do this? Figure it out. Is there some extra job I can take on? Is there some payment plan I can do? And I'm so grateful for that one phrase he said. And now tying back to the phrase of Alan Watts, where I started this, the three questions, it was now I signed up for this program, this Kundalini training, a 9-month program. I didn't really realize that Kundalini was a separate thing, but I actually had been practicing it. Unbeknownst to me, it's part of one of the styles I had been practicing every day now for the last year at that point. And I signed up, I go to the class, and the first Saturday morning, we get in the class 9 a.m. and we gather in this big room. There's like 30 students there. It's recommended we wear all white. The teachers are in all white. It's this morning chill kind of vibe, and everyone's there in this room to learn yoga. So beautiful. I feel like I could cry now just thinking about it because it was it was the thing I was looking for. Um, it was like another Alan Watts quote came to mind, like sitting there, like seeing this guy in all white with the big white beard and everything, sitting in front of the room, just like talking about three questions: Who am I? Why am I here? And where are we going? He didn't use those words, but that's it. And that's what he's talking about. And Alan Watts was long dead when I found him, and he, in a way, was like a father figure to me. Like he's explaining what it's all about and what life is. And it's like finally somebody is like saying this, and I need to hear this, but he's dead. I can't have a real relationship with this person. I can't really ask questions or dialogue with this information. It's just absorb, just take it in, listen. And now here I was in 2011 sitting in this room with somebody in that same frequency, not teaching Alan Watts stuff, but teaching life stuff, teaching why we're here and what it's all about. And another Alan Watts quote that I was getting to was, he said, just imagine sometimes that when we pass away, we'll all just be sitting around in the heavens on a cloud, and God will just be explaining it all to us, like, and this is when I put you through that, and this is why I did that, and this is how I made this. And now sitting there in this room on a Saturday morning in Austin, Texas, at this Kundalini training, it was like that. It felt like we're sitting in the clouds. Everyone's wearing white. The sun's coming in through the window. And we're just sitting around talking about life and the meaning of life. And it's just like so relieving to me. So felt so much like I got to where I was always looking for, a sense of home, and like my home was like constantly moving as a child and constantly uprooted, moving to different schools. Everyone gets a new school, everyone knows each other, and I don't know anybody, and now move to another school and repeat. So this constant sense of like a loss of home, loss of family, loss of roots. And I'm projecting here. It's not what I signed up for. I didn't sign up for a family or to heal all my wounds. I signed up for a Kundalini training, and that's what I got. It's an amazing training, but it also served a much deeper, meaningful purpose for me. And as I'm very emotional talking about it, I haven't shared this story in such detail before, I think, publicly, but it's been in me and like stuck with me of like such a relief, such a homecoming, such a sense of gratitude and sense of peace. Like, yeah, I had a very lack of peace a lot in my childhood. So to be in this environment where it just feels very peaceful, very much coming from a good place. And it was amazing. It was like life changing. I became all about it. A very dedicated student. And it was the first thing I finished too. I dropped out of high school because we moved so much. Just got a GED. I didn't go to college. Didn't have any, I wanted to go to college, but couldn't afford it. And, I didn't apply myself well in high school, so I didn't have good grades and scholarships and all that. Because I was so into music. So I was like, I'm going to make it as a musician. That's the thing. I'll be a musician. And, at that point, jumping back a little bit, I did do that. It was all day, every day, just music, nonstop, just working really hard. I lived in a basement in a practice studio, no windows for a couple of years, working all night and then making music all day and repeating. And that was a necessary process for me, cathartic, healing. But I started to play shows, started to get out and just see all the dark side of the music industry and the drugs, the late nights, the bars, just in the same time getting into yoga every morning. Very strong split in the road for me where I had to decide which path. And I know music isn't always that. And, there's plenty of ways to make music that's not that. But at the time, it was just like I'm going to make mantra music. I'm going to go in this yoga path. I'm going to make sound healing music and get singing bowls and go into that path. So that's what I went to. And anyway, going back to those three questions, that led me, to Austin, to my Kundalini training and my teacher, Matab, and he would, not again, not directly answer these, but these are the root questions. These are like what I think was really driving me. Who am I? Why am I here? Where are we going? Like, what's the point of all this? What's the meaning? And I had a lot of depression. I suffered in my early 20s and struggled a lot just to find my sense of direction and purpose. And Kundalini gave me that. I didn't think I would teach this. I didn't plan to teach yoga, actually. And I didn't plan to do that. I didn't think I don't know, I didn't really have much expectation other than this was the next step. And along the way, I tried on some identities. I tried on the identity of a Kundalini yoga teacher, wearing all white, wearing a turban. Felt very foreign to me, felt inauthentic, and I couldn't keep doing that. And, doing this prescribed sequence by Yogi Bhajan and 3HO always felt a little off. I liked my teacher, Matab, as far as I know, very legit, honest, high integrity human being who I respect a lot. And he even said, don't go to New Mexico where the in the center of all this, it's not about Yogi Bhajan, it's about just do the practices. And that's his attitude and that works really well for him. And that's what he taught and that's what I took on. And the practices are amazing. Got sniffles from my emotional outburst here as it we're just crossing the Cancer new moon as I'm recording this. But yeah, I tried on identities. I tried on the Kundalini teacher. My teachers were like, "You have the gift to be a teacher. We want you to teach," and I did. I started, and I was very fulfilled, very happy. Taught for free, taught for nothing, small pay. It was not about money. There was a big heart sense of service and fulfillment in doing that. Starting to find myself more. I like music, but I'm not quite a musician. I'm not going to play these gigs and do this whole scene and all the drugs and late nights and bars. But I like music. So maybe I can find a way to make spiritual music. I really like singing bowls. That's something. I really like the gong. I made a gong recording. I made a singing bowl recording, made sound healing recording. Started doing sound healings with my teacher and some other sound healers. This was really good. That's like no doubt about that. That's part of what feels resonant and true to me. And still to this day, I've still moved a lot since then. And the one thing I've kept for the last, uh, what is it, 10 years now, the singing bowls, maybe 11 or 12 years, but they're right over here. I'm looking at them. These singing bowls, these seven singing bowls, they're heavy as hell. And I carried them all over. Never lost them in every move I've had. That's the one thing I've kept for like 12 years. And that's a big part of who I am, and everyone's going to be different, what you are, who you are. But I had to test some things out. And then I kept hearing about these astrology readings that Matab would do. I was very into Western astrology, but at the same time, like, that's what I kept following and I kept struggling. I was depressed. I was not fulfilled. And then I kept following this yoga path, this Vedic path that Alan Watts talked about, the Vedas, the Upanishads, yoga, meditation. And then to Kundalini yoga and all this, and my teacher, and happier, more fulfilled, more friends, more connections, more meaning in life, more purpose, more alignment, more truth, more authenticity. It was coming through. And I kept hearing about the Vedic astrology readings, but man, Vedic is hard to learn. I don't understand it. Uh, I tried to read these books. I tried to read these websites. I just don't get it. But I followed the Western, and it's kind of led me astray. And I kind of drifted off of that and followed all this just yoga, organic food, healthy lifestyle, Kundalini yoga. And they always start to bring up numerology and palmistry and Vedic astrology and chakras. And, Vedic and the training I had was very thorough and a lot of energetic stuff. So much on the energetic level. Very grateful I did that because that also huge part of who I am and what matters to me is the energetic stuff. And yeah, kept hearing my teacher, gave an amazing reading. You got to check him out. So I finally booked a reading with him, and I was very broke. I had no money. I had to, save up for a while and do some work trade things and just help out, just whatever I could. Help record a recording for him because I'm an audio engineer by that point. I knew how to make music and record the audio and stuff, edit and all this. So yeah, helped him make a recording and got my reading and then there it was like all laid out for me just right away. Just starts reading and telling me my life story. And he kind of knows me as my teacher of yoga, but not really, not enough to say these things, and talk about the loss of the father and the distance from my family and all the hardships I went through and all the good and all the gifts as well. And just put it in perspective. So who am I? The chart tells you so much. It's not fate. It's not like that's all you are. It's not like you have no free will, but the patterns are so clear. There's an element of intuition to it, an element of pattern recognition. But all I knew was like, this guy is legit, and I want to learn everything I can from him. And how does he do that? So I started learning astrology with him in a mentorship capacity, and started just learning as much as I could. And I've got karma in my chart. There's like stops and starts to that. And it's not a simple direct path. So it wasn't such a simple direct path for me. And education has always been that way, except for the Kundalini training. That first thing I did was like, I finished it, graduated, did it for myself. And then I started this sort of chain of doing that with Hatha yoga, with astrology, with other trainings, with anatomy, with other stuff. And why am I here? This question again, everyone's different. Why everyone's maybe you're here to create family, maybe you're here to fulfill a purpose. There's no right answer to this. Maybe I'm here to have tissue on hand for when I suddenly get emotional. I didn't plan for. But why am I here? This question that all the great texts of philosophies, religions try to answer and tell us. You're here to do this. And when you die, this will happen. I don't know. Where are we going? Is that true? Afterlife, heaven, hell? I don't know. Uh, I can't speak to things that beyond this realm with too much authority or hubris. But why am I here? I think everyone is here to answer that for themselves. And I think one answer that resonates with me and maybe resonates with you is we're here to follow our hearts. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have wound up in that room. I wouldn't have wound up just looking, you know, would have numbed it out. I would have, just partied with my friends when I was 18. Everyone started drinking illegally. uh, all my friends started getting into alcohol. I was excited to turn 18 so I could join a gym and go on that path, lifting weights and stuff. Not that it's better or worse or whatever. Everyone has their journey and their path and whatever. But I feel part of why I'm here is to be healthy, to take care of myself, to learn what it means to live a healthy life, to ask questions, to be curious. And I think anyone on this astrology path has some level of that curiosity, maybe part of your path. But, so much in our head about all this. And I think in the heart, it's very simple. How to treat other people becomes very obvious. How to take care of ourselves becomes very obvious with compassion, with kindness. And the heart can be clouded, crushed, broken, blocked, and we all experience this, live long enough, and we all experience this. But underneath all that, there is a tender part of us that wants to follow those, what's really love. I think it's really about love. It's like, what do you love to do? What do you care about? And to me, there's a sort of childlike innocence that I feel like I've managed to stay connected to. It's like I want to understand myself. I'm curious about life. There's a playfulness. And a lot of this you can see, looking in my Vedic chart, I can understand this. And then looking back to my childhood, you can understand this. Because when I first got a reading, I came in like, I'm an Aries. I know who I am. I'm a Libra ascendant and all this Western astrology stuff. He's like, actually, you're a Virgo rising. And I was like, oh, that's boring. Who wants to be a Virgo? Oh, OCD, control freak. But then, I look at my life and just look back and like reflect a bit. In my early childhood, I was making spreadsheets. I don't know spreadsheets. I had no idea what a spreadsheet was, but I would go to the video store and rent movies, and then I would write it down. And okay, this movie this year, and I saw this one, and rented that one, and made this whole categorization process on a piece of paper that I wore out because I used that one piece of paper for years, just going to the video store, renting movies, wanting to see everything with my uncle and my parents, my mom and stepdad at the time. And also my earliest memory is being a child and just organizing everything, wanting to learn how to vacuum and clean and impress my mom with how clean the house was when she came home. Definitely parentified, unhealthy stuff there, but uh, also, going to my friend's house, he has all the toys, and I can do anything I want, and I just clean up and rearrange and make the room spotless. My mom comes in, like, "What did you do? Why? What is this?" So I cleaned. Look at it. It's everything's in order. There's a space for everything. It's clean. It's organized. That's what I did when I had free reign to play with any toy I want in this room with all the toys. I didn't have a lot of toys myself, and very Virgo tendencies. And I could see that from my childhood. And then as an adult, we got very good at editing. In the music world, what I was doing a lot was engineering and editing, and I loved it. And my songwriting partner had no interest. And I was like, oh my God, check out this new sound editing app I got, and this interface, and these preamps. And I got this new microphone cable, and, all this stuff, nerding out about the tech and the Virgo stuff. And then I got this new system for organizing our files and how we're going to, save our lyrics in this file and all this stuff, and how to manage Dropbox, and we can share files, and very Virgo stuff. So for me, I look back and it's like that really resonates more than Libra stuff. It's more relationship oriented, more about seeking balance and harmony, which I could see some of that and the truth in that. And the Western system has its validity, and it works in its own system as a more seasonal kind of system of like understanding different energies over time. But the Vedic was just so resonant, it felt so true, and gave so much guidance. So again, back to this second question of why am I here? It's the astrology is like a map of like, this is who you are, and these are the gifts you have. These are the karmas that you're working with. The karma for me of not knowing my father, the karma of liking to organize things and be that sort of way, and the karma of Sun and Aries liking to start things and initiate. And and I could see that, and I could see how that would play out, and I could see how that could guide me going forward. It's just so clarifying, so relieving, because a lot of things that I heard in the reading, I already knew them on some level, but so validating. And I knew them, but I doubted them before the reading. And I knew them, but I wasn't sure. It's like maybe this, maybe that. But after the reading, I knew them in my bones. I knew my gifts. I could see it. I could see the patterns. I could see how I could use that energy. And, really, there's always a placebo effect to any kind of divination tool or any kind of self awareness. So you could argue, maybe this is all just placebo effect and I'm seeing what I want. And that's fair criticism. I welcome criticism. And as a Virgo, I welcome, not only welcome criticism, but I'm a practicing member of criticism and highly skilled in this this skill, but I think it's important to really just look at the patterns, and a lot of it for me is more pattern recognition than psychic ability or something like that. And it's clear. It's I can see it. It's obvious. And then I look at other Virgos and I can see it, and look at other signs and everything. You see the patterns. So there's that logic side of it. For the frontal lobe, likes to analyze things. And then where are we going? Well, he gave me the whole dasha every year of my life, all 120-year dasha system. Where I'll be, and it's so helpful. It's just so clarifying of like you're in this phase of life, and I was in the Saturn dasha when it started for me. Right when it started, I got robbed. My whole ruse of I'm going to be a musician someday. That's where I was at, working, stocking the shelves, listening to my Alan Watts. Very content. I like this. I can do this. I can just stock shelves, listen to Alan Watts, and live in this fantasy of I will be a musician someday. I will record and put out an album someday. And then Saturn Dasha started up and messed up all my plans. I got robbed, and all the music equipment I've been saving up. I need all this equipment, then I'll be ready. Half of that was stolen. A lot of nice stuff. It's like so devastating. But I kind of knew it was coming. I had the intuition. I could feel it. I lived in a bad neighborhood, and I got a lock on my door, but they just kicked down the lock. It's very easy. I had this feeling, and I started to will it into manifesting. I would visualize it. I was visualizing this happening. I knew it was coming. And at a certain point, I think you keep visualizing this future that you know is inevitable. Something needs to change, and it will. I got into a car accident. I spent driving in Minnesota in December. Ice, ice roads, black ice. Can't see the ice. There's snow on top of the ice, and it just looks like there's a road underneath. Going on the highway, 4 lanes. I go from the left lane, all the way across 4 lanes into a light pole. Miraculous, ridiculous, doesn't make sense. That light pole falls across the highway. Nobody's hurt. I'm not hurt. My car is barely dinged. It's like a cheap old 95 Camry, Toyota Camry. I just turned the car around. Somebody was there who stopped and like tried to help me pull the light pole across the road and fix that. Then they're like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I gotta get to work. I'm late." And they're like, "No, I think you should probably stay here." It's like, "No, nothing, no damage to me. I knocked this light pole over, but nobody's hurt." It's kind of miraculous, but it is a wake up call, And at the same time, my coworkers are like, "When are you gonna play a show? When are you gonna put out your album? We're waiting for it. You got to get out there." It's like, wait, later. I need more equipment. I need more time. And Saturn Dasha came in and just, the car accident, the robbery. All I was left with was guitar. And I had just gotten a new computer for making music, and that was taken away. But I had my old computer at my grandma's house. So just went and spent a lot of time at my grandma's house, 2 weeks. Just, I'm going to make this recording. And I made a whole album in 2 weeks. And then again, froze. But the Saturn Dasha really like challenged me to just stop it. Stop putting things off. Stop thinking like you're just gonna like ignore your intuition, right? Ignore that intuition like I was gonna get robbed, that I needed to change things, I needed to do all this. And the universe like it's like it's time to change. You're in a new time of life. I was out of the Jupiter Dasha, which was all like it ended that was like a lot of social time, my Jupiter Dasha. That was actually a lot of fun. Like there was a time in my teens there where I was like had a lot of friends, and then they see me in the Saturn Dasha and like, you're so serious now. What happened? I didn't know about the Dashas at the time. But anyway, where are we going? This third question of Alan Watts. uh, it's like, okay, I see there's this trajectory here. I went to the Saturn Dasha, everything got real serious, real fast, and like time to stop messing around. And if I really want to do something, like just do it. If I'm gonna make music, go make music. And I'm gonna quit this job I don't like, quit the job. So it started happening. I started, put out this album I made, started playing shows, just started doing it. My friend had a wedding coming up. She's like, I'm having a wedding. I was like, can I DJ your wedding? I think that'd be really fun. I could play music. She's like, no, we already hired a DJ from this company called Midwest Sound. I was like, okay, cool. Well, next that night, I went online and looked up Midwest Sound, and turns out they were doing an open house for hiring that next Tuesday. So I showed up on Tuesday, no DJ experience, no equipment, and that turns out you didn't need that. They just hired anyone who walked in that day, and I walked in that day, and I was like, "This is my friend Kristen." Next day, like, "Hey, I just got a job with Midwest Sound. I want to DJ your wedding," and started DJing, and uh, actually really enjoyed that, and I actually got paid in one night the same amount I got paid in 1 week doing the stocking shelves gig. So easy to quit that. And now I'm just working one night a week. I got all this time to make music, do yoga, live this healthier life. Very cool. Uh, Now I'm more in alignment. It's like, whoa, this is possible. And then that led to eventually moving to Austin, which was kind of hard because I was like, oh, I really like this DJing thing and making music. It's going pretty well, but I don't like the cold winters and the bad, poor access to food and fruits. Got to get my bananas. I was eating a high banana diet at the time. Uh, Bad for your teeth. Don't recommend. But eventually moved to Austin. All this, get to the reading. So I'm jumping around in the timeline, but end up at the reading, and he's like showing me my dashas. Now you're in the Saturn dasha. Ah, okay. This is the time to be disciplined, meditate, service. I'd already been, as soon as it started, I suddenly was volunteering all the time. I volunteered anywhere I could. I didn't know about the dasha at the time, but when Saturn dasha started, I was suddenly just anywhere I could volunteering all the time. And now I moved to Austin, volunteering all the time, get the reading. Good. You're in alignment there. That's Saturn. That's good. And then meditate. Started going to more discipline in my practice, like 30-day sadhana sequences, 60-day sadhana, 90-day sadhana, training after training. Just keep learning and learning from elders, Saturn, and just keep going. And then you'll get to the Mercury dasha, which I'm still not at. Like it feels like lifetimes have happened in the Saturn dasha for me. And I have Saturn in Scorpio, so it's a little more intense for me. But now almost in the Mercury dasha, and moving in that direction, and it just gave me so much clarity. The dashas are just amazing, like such a gift to have this sort of map of these timelines of your life. And again, they're not necessarily good or bad or all this one thing or not. It's just like these are the energies present, and it gives you a way to choose how to work with them. So it's so exciting in a way. Life becomes this sort of gift. And I remember at the same time, maybe like right before I did this reading, I met with another mentor I was working with. And I just wanted to know, like, I don't know, I had all these questions. I just wanted to know what she knew. I wanted so many answers. I'd sit with her and just give me the answers. Like, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I be with this person or that person or take this career path or should I teach this or that? And she just kind of slowed me down and she was like, all right, here you go. I've just given you all the answers. You have it all now. Right? Can you feel that? Can you imagine that? Giving you all the answers. You know everything that's going to happen, every right decision to make. You've got it. Now what? And I just laughed. I just giggled. It's like, uh, well, now I just live it out, I guess. She's like, okay, live it out. And it's like, it just kind of took the rug out from underneath me. It's just like, what am I really asking here? What do I really want to know? It's like, I want to enjoy life. I don't want to just like play out a script. That would be boring. I like improv comedy. I don't like scripted stuff. I want to improvise. I want to play. I want to be in flow. I want to be present. I want to move with the energy that's alive. I get to do that so much as a yoga teacher. That's really fun of like following the energy of the moment, of the pose, of what's present. And astrology is so much like feeling the energy of the planets and the transits and what's happening. That's what matters. That's where we're going, right? I don't need to know the destination. I don't need to know every stop. I don't need to know, should I be with this person or should I make this choice or should I say yes or no to that? I just need to know, does this feel aligned? And we go back to those first two questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Who am I? I am billion-year-old stardust expressing in a particular way that feels aligned to me. Always dynamic, always changing, always snot running down my nose today in this episode. I need to get tissue soon. Why am I here? Uh, to be alive, to express, to feel, to share, to follow my heart. Where are we going? Well, it's wherever the spirit moves you, right? Wherever you feel aligned. Again, you're following the alignment. And in my experience, in my perspective, everything I've looked at, Vedic astrology gives you the clearest map to answer these questions and to live this way of knowing yourself, knowing your gifts, your tendencies, your strengths and weaknesses, and then seeing the timeline of how it unfolds. Right. Obviously, I'm going to say this. I'm very biased. I got a whole podcast and all this stuff I offer around it, a mentorship program. But that's what I found. That's true to me. I've tried everything. I've tried as much as I know. I haven't tried everything, but I've tried a lot of stuff. And there was a time where, in the transits too, my teacher said, this is the time to just try a bunch of stuff and then see what sticks. It was early 20s, like it's not so consequential then. But we all go through these times where it's like, explore, try it out, see if it resonates. And I got to the point now where it's like, I just keep coming back. Vedic, it's like Vedic astrology answers so many of these questions and doesn't really answer it in the way of like, well, you need to marry this person and take this job on this date. There's actually some astrologers that can do stuff kind of like that, but I think that's very disempowering and not really true. And it's basically that works as much as you give it the power of like, well, you said I should do it, so I'm going to do it. I think it's more about taking the power back of like, here are your options. Like Morpheus to Neo, here's the red pill or the blue pill of what you want to choose. Which path do you want to go down? And when you go down this astrology path, I think it's very empowering, very clarifying, helps you understand yourself. So I love getting to share it. And that's just a bit about my journey. Long-winded story. I don't like to share too much of this, like talking about myself, unless I think it's somewhat of service, a benefit to you to like maybe just hear my story or just, see the kind of journey I've been on and maybe help understand your own path a little bit. But this is what I do now, and I've kind of stumbled into this. I didn't set out to be an astrologer. I didn't set out to be a yoga teacher. I didn't set out to think I know anything. It's like I think I am curious about a lot of things. That's really my gift, if I have one, is I'm very curious about a lot of things and then how it relates to each individual person, personalization. So when I work with clients, when I teach this stuff, what I love is seeing Mike was here when he came into working with me, and now Mike is there. Mike was a preacher who knew a lot of bits and pieces and some advanced stuff. But when you go to give a reading, it just kind of didn't know, should I talk about the D9? Should I talk about their sun? Should I talk about ascendant? How do I help somebody with this? How do I really apply it to my life? Should I be focusing on my dasha or should I rotate my whole chart over here and like, should I look at this aspect and like some esoteric thing some random teacher said? It's like, how do we just like rein it all in and get back to who are you? Why are you here? Where are you going? And what are your gifts in your chart? How do we understand Mike? And how does Mike now understand the world? And how does Mike now pull up any chart of anybody and help them understand their world? And that's what I love. It's like so exciting to me, the improv side and like the curiosity side and the presence side of like, I don't want my clients and my students being able to like research and you need to spend a week on each person and like do all this research. You do all the research up front. You do that before the reading, before you ever look at it in the training and the trainings you do. So then when you pull it, when you do get to now, you pull up a stranger's chart, you are ready and you've already looked at all of it. Like Michael Jordan said, the reason he's great at basketball is because he's already taken every possible shot from every angle on the court thousands of times. Nothing is new to him. That's what I aim to share in my program is in the Vedic Astrology mentorship is like you get to look at every possible placement in a chart that could happen and what it means. So then when you see it, you've already seen it. It's not new to you. You're not lost. You're not stumbling. You've already taken that shot before of interpreting it. And then Mike has done that. And now he can give readings where people are blown away and feel incredibly seen and validated and understood in the same way that I hope Mike has, in the same way that I have from my teacher, in the same way that I am fortunate to hear from clients I work with when I give one-on-one readings. And we get to share this amazing thing. Right? It's comes back to this tradition of connecting to the teachers who've come before us, and then stepping into that to some degree ourselves. And it's an honor for me to get to share that. And people who are meant to be here and resonate with that, I would love to get to share this with you in more depth. And if you want to work with me, the Vedic Astrology Mentorship is open right now for a limited time. quietmindastrology.com/mentorship. You can enroll and go on your own journey. I don't know the role I will play in your life. I don't know the impact I'll have or not, or the role I won't play. But I do know the impact I've had from my teachers and the role they've played and the meaning that has had to me. And this is why I work in this intimate, small group setting with lots of one to one time. I'm going to look at your chart a lot. If you work with me, you're not just some number, you're not some stranger, right? I am not Alan Watts, I'm not dead. I'm alive. And I am here to share this living tradition to you and help you understand yourself and your gifts and your strengths and share them with the world. That's all I've ever cared about. As a little kid, I'd sit and just look at people and like, I thought I needed to be a psychologist. I went down that path. Thought I needed to be a psychotherapist. Too dry, too boring, too serious. We can integrate all that. I've taken these trainings. I've done this stuff. I've done the trauma informed training. I've done the coach training, some higher education, college stuff in this stuff. But it's like astrology is so much deeper. It's so much more. We see it all in a chart and you can use it with those things. And I have people I work with who are psychotherapists and counselors and coaches, and they use this as part of their toolkit. And one thing that they do use to help people, but it's not everything for them, but it's part of their tradition and their path. And that's great. But to me, it's like you see everything, it's all in the chart. And it's still free will. There's still choice. It's not like it's all like handed to you. Here you go. Here's the answers. Now go and just run the script. It's here's the potentials. Improvise. Let's have some fun with it. Right. So if you want to look at the chart with me, go deeper in this, look at your chart, look at others' charts, look at thousands of charts I give you access to, and lots of research, lots of practice. It's not about memorization. It's not about being a psychic. It's about experience. It's about interacting with somebody who's done it, save you years of frustration and confusion, and just get right to it. And Mike spent years going on that path, down lots of rabbit holes, but now within 5 months of actually working with a mentor and getting lots of one-on-one time, he's actually now an astrologer, actually giving the readings, getting amazing feedback. And it's just like such a great joy to me to see. Yeah, I just love sharing this. So that's a big part of who I am, why I'm here, and where I'm going. So if you want to go along with me, quietmindastrology.com/mentorship. And if you catch this later, get on the priority list and you'll know the next time space opens up. And that's all for now. Hope you have a good day. Talk to you soon.